circle left. My rock, my shield, my Jesus, he is real. Left Allen man the corner, do a do-side-do your own. Left Allen man and you read the ring one day. He saved my soul. You swing that girl around in your promenade. My Lord, he is real. I can feel him in my soul.
All right, here we go. Another Square Dance Callers Talking. Tonight I have Gary Baker. He is in Spokane, Washington, or just outside of Spokane, Washington. We're going to talk about his life and some of his square dance calling stuff. How are you tonight, Gary?
I'm good.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to talk to you. It looks like I'm having a little bit of a video issue, but I don't know why it's starting that. But we'll just keep on going. It should be fine because it's more about the audio. If somebody doesn't get to see me, they don't get to see me. That's fine. So how have you been, sir?
I'm good.
That's good. So and you're a square dance caller, and I told you I'd never spoken to anyone from Washington before, state of Washington. That's why I ended up contacting you, and you were willing to do this for me, and I do appreciate that. So let's talk about your square dance life, man. How long have you been? When did you start dancing?
I started dancing in 1975. I was just thinking about that last night. This spring will be 50 years since I started dancing. I was 14 when I started.
Gotcha.
And started in college. Back then, the square dance activity was a bigger thing. I went to some lessons that my mom and dad went to. I did not want to go. They dragged me to the first party level dance that they had. And I went literally to shut my mother up.
Okay.
Sounds awful, but she said, Gary, just go check it out. If you don't like it, I'll never make you go again. I said, good. So I went, and it was, basic level stuff. And they were one person shy of a square on the floor. And this pretty young thing came up and asked me if I danced. And I kind of went, uh-huh. So, I had a lot of fun. They had a class starting up not long after that. My sister and I got involved and just took off from there and had a lot of fun with it. Got to college. We had a club at Washington State University. In fact, I met my wife there, square dancing.
Okay.
We dancing, and callers would hear me singing along with them because I just like to sing, and I was just time and someone started throwing records at me and putting me up to do singing calls. This would have been in 1981.
81. Okay.
So and I'd go, I had no clue that you could put different figures on them. I would just do whatever the guy on the record was doing. And
yep.
In fact, the first time that I met Wade Driver, not that long ago, but I told him, that you don't know me, but you taught me how to do singing calls because I listened to the flip side, and Wade Driver was one of the voices that I knew I could sing about his piece. So so then the Army came along. I was on an ROTC scholarship. I graduated from pharmacy school, got married. The calling kind of went by the wayside. And my wife and I eventually ended up, like I told you, in Fort Benning, Georgia for 4 years. And down there, as an Army officer anyway, they're just, at that time, all the clubs in Columbus, Georgia danced in the middle of the week, and then they traveled on the weekends. And just plain didn't do any square dancing those 4 years that I was there. We moved out, I became an Indian Health Service pharmacist after that. We ended up in Alaska before we started dancing again. Big gap, probably 6 years gap in our dancing. And up in Anchorage in 1993, I don't think he's calling anymore. I'm not sure. I haven't heard from him in a long time. But he was a retired Air Force guy doing his club in Eagle River, Alaska, it was a suburb of Anchorage. And just about the time I started learning to call, Jim got sent with his civil service job for training down to Idaho someplace. He was gone 6 months, and that was 2 weeks before we were supposed to start a class. So he called me one night. He said, "Well, you want to learn to call? Here you go." So I had that big old, I still got it, that big brown Callers Teacher's Manual. Have you ever seen that?
I have seen it.
And so the first night at class, I just told folks, I said, you know, you're here to learn to square dance. I'm here to learn to call. Let's have fun and let's do this together. And we did, and it went pretty well. And started working on it more. We got in Alaska, not a lick of square dancing anywhere. I was on another hiatus. 2006. I got transferred down to Browning, Montana, which isn't far from Kalispell, Montana, which is where Adam Chrisman lived at the time.
Okay.
I got started again. So, you know, people ask me how long I've been calling. Well, Caller Lab, I just lost you, Charlie.
I'm still here.
Okay. I'll keep my hand off the mouse. So, Caller Lab says I've been calling since 1993.
93. Okay.
It gave me my 25 year certificate.
Very nice.
There's a lot of big holes in that 25 years where we just weren't in a place. We were on remote Indian reservations or in Alaska places where there was no dancing. And so in Kalispell in 2007 when I started, Adam helped me a lot. A couple of the Montana callers at the time. And then when I left the Indian Health Service, I retired in 2012, came back here to Spokane, which is where I grew up.
Okay.
And a lot harder ever since I got back here. You were asking about some influences. Doug Davis, Adam Chrisman have been real good, big helpers to me. I've done caller schools with Daryl Clendenin and Jerry Junk. I've gotten to be friends with both those guys. Enjoy being around them.
Awesome.
I've done the school down in Houston with Wade Driver a couple of times.
Nice. Okay. Wade.
Had the good fortune. We have a festival every August here called the Salmon Barbecue, national caller for the weekend, and we've had the I call it good luck to be able to house some of these guys when they travel. So we've got to have some long weekends with people staying in our house. We've had Wade here, we've had Tom Miller here, Buddy Weaver here, Joe Saltel. So and that's been a lot of fun, just being able to hang out in the evenings and talk with
Sure. That's outstanding.
That's kind of been my caller journey. I am now the club caller for a group here in Spokane called the Model T Squares.
Okay.
And I also teach for another club over in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. I'm only about 8 miles from the Idaho border, where I live out in the suburbs of Spokane. So, and then we are in, like the rest of the country, I suppose, but when you go east from Spokane, you hit a lot of unpopulated areas, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Idaho, western Montana. Missoula is not a bad sized town, but everything else is real small, and there's no callers over there. You don't hit when you leave Spokane headed east, you don't run into a town with a caller in it until you get to Butte, Montana. And that's a long ways from here. That's about 325 miles, I think, from here. So these little towns in western Montana, some of them still have clubs going, and they like to get folks over. So we callers here in the Spokane area, we travel around a little bit. I do some calling over in Libby, Montana, Plains, Montana. Headed down to the Tri-Cities in the beginning of November. So we do some calling and around. We do some traveling.
Okay. Good.
Most of it's within a 2.5, 3 hour drive.
Gotcha. Now I was looking. I did a little bit of research and I was finding some stuff. And you've talked about your mentors and all that. Have you recorded some songs too?
I've done a little bit. I did one for the Rhythm Student label. Um, that was probably about 3 years ago now. It's called "Give Me a Little Sign,"
Okay.
and I have no idea how well it did
Yeah.
as far as. And then I've done a couple for Riverboat Records.
Riverboat.
Uh,
Okay.
I like gospel music, and then there's a song that I had on the Red Boot label. I have it on a 45 RPM. That's where I got it.
Wow. Nice. Okay.
It's my rock, my shield, my Jesus, He is real, and it's this rock and gospel song. I just love it.
Very nice.
Well, I'm doing some callers. I've been getting coached by a couple over in Germany. You know Walt and
Yep.
Julie Burr?
Walt and Julie Burr. Yes, sir.
Thursday mornings, most Thursday mornings, we have a Zoom session.
Okay.
We use me as part of her log of all the hours she had to get before she took the accredited caller coaching.
Okay.
She just kept doing it. I just love them to death. But that's one of the songs I did for them once in our coaching, and Julie really liked it. So, but it was, you couldn't find it anymore. And then I found out that Bob had, with Riverboat, he had the rights to Red Boot. So I called him just to find out if I could give Julie a copy of this, because I had it already digitized. Going to send her a copy, but I wanted to pay him to do it so that we
Sure.
were above board. And he said, "Well, I'm about to re-release that, and I haven't been able to find anybody to sing it." I said, "Well, I can sing it." And so I ended up doing the new version for Riverboat of My Rock, and then he had me do another one. I can't even remember right now. I'd have to look. So it's kind of a pure little song that I'd never heard before. I couldn't even find the lyrics. I had to actually. I did find a recording eventually on Spotify. I just had to write the lyrics down and
Yeah.
made my own cue sheet for it, and so and it was fun. In both of those songs I did because again, Adam, Chris, when he came over, he's got the microphone and the mixer set up, so we did it actually in my in a room in my house in my basement where we had decent acoustics, and just, Bob sent the MP3, the mixed music, and then we just laid the voiceover on top of it.
Very nice.
So those are my three ventures into.
Okay. Okay. I've had the opportunity to record one so far and had a lot of fun with it. We did that in Nashville at a studio, and it was a great experience. Hopefully I get to do it some other time. We'll see. Yeah, I noticed that you had a few singing calls. I'm going to go check those out when we get done here. I ask everybody too, and you've been calling for a while, if you could do something different in the beginning, would you do anything different with your calling?
That's a hard one. I was pretty busy as a federal pharmacist when I got started, so I was kind of forced into the mode where calling was definitely just a little side gig. I think I would try to spend more time at it. I've been calling quite a while, and I still feel somewhat like a new caller.
Okay.
I'm still.
Yep.
I wish I could do that better. But I'm not sure how to. I don't think there's
No.
too much.
And what?
I don't think there are any serious mistakes that I did wrong, other than like I said, it would have been nice to have more time to devote to it up front. But
Right.
At the time that I got interested in calling, I was committed to some years of service, and
Yeah.
I couldn't decide at the spur of the moment. I'm going to give this a shot and try to do it full time.
Yeah.
That was back in '0 when those guys were doing that.
Yeah, when you could do that. Yeah.
Nowadays, it would be a lot tougher.
Yeah, to do it now, you'd have to be on the road continually, and it'd just be too much. Seems like, or be retired and doing it. singing.
I have that luxury now. I'm retired from my day job, but it's amazing how things
Okay.
fill up.
Yeah, no, what I was kind of getting at is a lot of us start out, my first 2 years, I did singing calls. That's all I did. And so when the people that were working with me said, hey, you need to start doing patter, I was already in a comfortable spot with the singing calls and I didn't want to do patter and I fought it for a good long time. So I wish I'd have started with more patter, so I'd have been more comfortable. It's kind of
You know,
what
I got the point. I didn't think about that one, but yeah, because the way I did that in college, I didn't have, in my mind, I didn't have to work on patter.
Mhm.
There was a guy at the time in Moscow, Idaho, just a few miles away from where I was going to school. His name was Don Chris. I don't think he's calling anymore. He got some old recordings out there too. I found one of his records going through an old box.
No kidding. Nice.
Anyway, he's always trying to get me to work on patter. He'd always put me up to sing, and he'd always, when are you gonna start doing this patter stuff? So yeah, it would have probably been helpful if I'd have taken the plunge, but
Yeah.
it's just, I like singing, and
But, you get comfortable and you, once you start learning how to karaoke or parrot back these singing calls you hear on records back then in digital now, you're comfortable and you don't really make mistakes. You learn what the callers are doing already. But when you jump into the choreography, there's some nights that are pretty bad memories, on mistakes and things like, because I take it personal if I mess something up, but I've been told the dancers forget it. If they like you, you're fine. Just keep working at it.
and they tend to, at least my experience has been, they like to rib you about it, just have fun with it.
Mhm. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
The group in Kalispell, Montana, when I was working at Better over there, they presented me with a cowbell one night. And
What was
the
that?
rules, whenever I messed up, they'd yell at me, and I had to ring that cowbell. So it's just kind of part of the shtick.
That's good. I like that.
So
My
yeah,
club kind of keeps score with me now every night. They if it's one for them or one for me,
right.
so.
They're they're real forgiving, and it's thing sometimes.
Well, now with your calling, up in that area and the traveling you've done, are there any venues or like mostly we call, and what I mean by this is we call in gymnasiums, senior centers, wherever. Any venue stand out, something that was really memorable, a dance floor, a group, or anything like that?
We there's been different places. Up in Eagle River, Alaska, we could use the schools, and so you had access to middle schools. Um, we had what am I trying to say? Multi-purpose rooms.
Okay.
They like the lunchroom. They roll the tables off. We could dance in there. Um, those were always kind of interesting. The acoustics were horrible.
Yeah.
Big spots. We've been blessed here in the Spokane area. We've got a couple dedicated square dance halls.
Okay.
Well, the school districts in this area don't allow the use of them for that. So if we have those halls, we wouldn't be in the schools. Trying to think. We've done some outdoor stuff in little booths at the fairs where people have. In fact, I remember one time also in Montana, we were doing a little thing outside in a park, and the lady fell and broke her hip. That was
Wow. That's when you need the insurance for sure.
out the Lowlands after that one. I wasn't calling that when I was out. I was in the dance group, but yeah, we just some of the smaller towns like I told you about going over into Montana. By and large, they either use some of the old grain calls. There's one of those over in Kalispell that it's really showing its age, but we're still using it over there.
Wow, nice.
But a lot of the small towns, they're still able to get into the schools, and so use
Okay.
days. wherever we can find a spot.
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough. I've called in enough locations now. Some old school. There was one in Macon, Georgia, which if you've traveled through Georgia, Macon's right in basically the center. If you look at it, old schools. I think they told me it was 110 years old. It's not a school now, but it was back when it had the one room schools and the original hardwood floors had a stage that had to be 6 foot higher than the floor. It was amazing. And so that when I was thinking about that, that's one of the most memorable floors I've had. And I've got a couple places now with my club that I call that are memorable. Now, you've recorded a few songs, and you said earlier that gospel is one of your favorite ones. If you're not listening, if it's not square dance related, what genre of music do you enjoy the most, you think?
Uh, gosh, I like a lot of different music. I'm not a big fan of opera.
Okay.
I think opera is everything. I grew up playing trumpet in high school and a little bit in college. Enjoyed that a lot. So I love listening to jazz, instrumental jazz.
Okay.
I like classic, what they call classic now, rock and roll. To me, it's just rock and roll. 70s, 80s, 90s rock and country.
Okay.
Uh, so yeah, everything. We listen to Christian radio, and there's of course different genres of that too. But I kind of I like listening to different stuff. I find myself now listening for that beat.
Yeah. Yep.
I bet we can make a singing call out.
Yep. I agree. That's where my mind's been for about the last 10 years. I can't listen to just radio without thinking about could it be square dance.
And so now Adam, having become the new owner of Rhythm Records, I'll be bugging him to death.
Yeah.
Adam, this one, hey.
Well, on that note, and some people have it in their head, some people don't. If you could make a singing call right now, is there one that you'd like to hear?
Oh gosh, I'm sure there is, but I'm just not thinking of it right now.
Okay.
It's amazing how many of them I think that, and then I go and I find out somebody already did it.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah.
But yeah, just pretty much anything with a beat. That I know that last year the NCAA tournament, March Madness, we're playing that song constantly about I want to dance with everybody that walks through the door.
Yeah.
And Wade made a singing call out of that.
Okay.
I bought that one, and anybody that was a basketball fan, because they were listening to that song the whole time. Oh, it's the big dance, and so I want to dance with everybody that walks through the door. It was a great for the basketball tournament, but it just fits right in to square dancing, and it's a great song. So you hit a good that. Right now,
okay, that's fine. Well, and I ask a lot of people to I wouldn't ask you to do just one, but if right now, if top 3 singing calls, if somebody just said, hey, go up and do a couple tips, what would you sing?
Okay. One would be it's on Elite Records called Sold, the Grundy County auction song.
I do that. I love that one. John Michael Montgomery.
Yeah, and people love it. I did that one night I got hired to do a dance in Koosky, Montana, with out in the middle of logging country. It's remote. Surprised me. They brought in. I thought I'd have a square or two. I had 5, and there was one square of very enthusiastic young adults in front of me. And I remember watching this one young lady. She sang that song word for word with me the whole time. It was just so much fun. I love it when you can see people singing with you.
Yep. Agreed. Yep.
They're enjoying it. So
I like that.
I like Good Hearted Woman.
Mm-hmm.
Another one that
Waylon Jennings.
I can't give you a year right now, Charlie, but there was one year in, I believe it was, I think it was in Pendleton, Oregon, when Ghost Riders band came to the U.S. Festival,
Mhm.
and I got Good Hearted Woman with them.
Oh, nice. Okay.
That song we talked about, My Rock,
Mhm.
would be I do a lot if I, because these are songs that I know so well that I could
Yep.
go up there and have
Yeah.
to think about. Oh, and there's one that Jet Roberts recorded for Chic. It feels good. It feels good, good, good.
Feels good. Okay. Jet. I love me some Jet Roberts. He's a good dude. Oh, that's good. I do ask everybody too. First of all, how high a level do you dance to and call to?
I call to plus. I'm learning. So do you know Doug Davis?
I do not.
Okay, Doug's been calling for forever. He's one of the accredited caller coaches.
Okay.
He's in the Northwest. He's known pretty good.
Okay. Doug Davis.
Davis, yeah, and he is. We don't have a lot of advanced dancing in this area. It's hard to even get a square together. But Doug is one of the few callers in the area that, and so we've been learning from him. Starting to feel like I can dance A1, A2 fairly
Yeah.
well. But it's hard to find places to practice it. Doug's been pushing me because he's looking to retire, so he's been pushing me to learn to call advanced.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Probably on the horizon, but I don't know the definitions well enough yet when I'm out there
Sure.
dancing to feel like I can call it very well. So
I gotcha.
in my future, but not quite.
Okay. Now, so from basic up to mainstream to plus, do you have a favorite call to call? Just a call.
A call. Gosh, I like to mess around some with Dixie style.
Dixie style. Okay. Very good.
Probably part of that's because of my exposure with Julie Burr. He likes to do weird stuff with Dixie style and
Gotcha. Okay.
work where I've got to come up with something to do reverse Dixie style or half sachet Dixie style, that
Yeah.
kind of stuff.
Oh. Well, you can have some fun with half sachet Dixie style, that's for sure. Yeah, no, that came about. I've always I love to watch if I'm on a stage and I'm higher than everybody, relay the deucey, just because of the movement that's involved. And I started asking that question, and it's all I have people say they just like circles, grand square stuff, you know. So Dixie style, I think that's probably the second time I've gotten that, but that's a great call. Takes you out of right hand for a minute. So
And you can do it with all four couples. You can go from the static square and have all four ladies go in and go Dixie style. You can play with it. You can have a lot of fun with it.
that's outstanding. Yeah, the first time I ever saw Dixie style on a double track, I was like, what are y'all talking about? And now I love it. And I'll try and work that in when I can. That's good stuff. A little bit about you, outside of the square dancing. You TV or movie guy?
Probably more TV because it kind of tends to be background stuff while we're doing other things.
Right. You got any favorite shows, episodes, any series?
I like I'm a big fan of procedural. I like NCIS.
Okay.
The new SWAT's pretty good.
The new SWAT. Okay, I got you. Of course, you're.
I grew up in the 70s, so
I was going to say, so you watch the original SWAT with T.J. McKay and all that. I was a huge fan of the SWAT. I used to love the beginning, that giant van sliding around curves. I was like, you'd be beating those guys to death back there.
Yeah. And then the theme song was a big, a band, high school pep band song too at the time. It was real popular, but
I use the SWAT. There's a karaoke version that I got 100 years ago now that I every now and then, if I'm with my club, I'll throw it on. I wouldn't do it somewhere else, but I'll use. I love the SWAT and Hawaii 5-0. I use the original theme from that for Patter. It's fantastic.
Riverboat has a version out for that, right? I got it from them. Yeah.
Okay. Let me ask you this. If you could call, and since you've done some traveling in the military and all that, if you could call a dance anywhere, where would it be? It's somewhere you've been before or somewhere you haven't been?
Outside the U.S. or?
Sure. Your call.
I'd like to go over and call one in Germany one of these days. It'd be fun to get over there and just, someplace where they don't, where English is not the primary language.
Mhm.
Because but I've been told that you really have to watch. You can't use filler words.
Yep.
They know the song by the way it is written. Like they know veer right and veer left, but they don't know veer to the left.
Yep.
Some of those kind of things. I think it would be challenging, fun to just go.
You know, a funny story on that, you saying Dixie style. I was talking to some callers that were in Japan, that had been to Japan, and I might be wrong here, but I want to say it was Patty Green. If I'm wrong, I apologize, but they were saying Dixie style to an ocean wave, and some of the squares kept breaking down. And after they were done, they were like, "What is the problem?" And they said, what their translator said, they don't know what to an ocean wave means. So they were doing Dixie style, but then they were getting lost because they didn't know Dixie style to an ocean wave, because that's not the actual call, it's Dixie style.
And it would put you in a left-handed wave, which might not be what they were shooting
Yeah.
for either.
So it's, that those filler words when you throw that in there. So that's good stuff. Yep. I'd love to get overseas at some point, whether it be Japan, Germany, wherever. I know a few people. I don't know many people in the Japan calling area right now, but I know quite a few in Germany and over in the Europe area. So that would be great to get over there. So, and remind me again, how often, how many clubs do you have? Are you calling for one or two?
I'm the club caller for one.
Okay.
The club over in Idaho near us that I do their lessons.
Mhm.
But they don't have a club caller, and they prefer to. So I dance. I do call one or two of their dances through the year. So the area they sort of have a rotating roster.
Gotcha. Okay. So what I'm getting at with that too, I have a club that I call twice a month for first and third Thursdays. And so just like you were talking, I can't go in there every other week with the same music, the same patter stuff. I know there are people that'll do it. Okay. But you can't be like that. How do you get ready for a dance for your club?
First thing I do, I use Square View, and I like to make playlists.
Mhm.
I've been to dances where a caller will kind of like, well, let's see, what do we do next?
That's not good. Yep.
And a few years back when I figured out that that I could save those playlists, that's what I do. I have a folder now in Square View for every dance that I do.
Okay.
Including my visits, all that. So I can go back and I can pull up the last 4 or 5, 6, however many I want to go back, dances that I've done, and I can see which songs I've done.
Nice. Okay.
So I won't repeat. because it's not just the club dance. I'm also every week I'm doing lessons, and depending on what the club wants to do, sometimes that means just beginners, but sometimes we might do an hour plus after that
Right.
for people in the club. Um, so I try not to be too repetitious.
Okay.
If they hear me do a song and they should get at least 4 or 5 weeks before they hear me do it again.
Yeah.
That's just what I like to do. And then also I try to spend I don't I don't want to say that I do it every month, but some months I'll go and spend $100 on. I figure I make $100 for most of the time if I go in and call. So what maybe once a month I'll take the proceeds from my dance and apply it to music
Sure.
so that I can do stuff. It's on me. I've got to sit down and learn those songs.
Yeah.
You know, but that's the first thing I do is just establish which singing calls am I going to do. If I've got time, and I'm notorious for in my own I'm notorious for waiting too long to get ready for a dance. But I hope to have time to work up a couple new songs.
Sure.
So I'll try to throw a couple new ones into every club dance, and then just kind of go from there. I'm I'm learning more about the choreography. That's what I'm still working on. I guess
Sure.
is I tend to be mostly a sight caller, but I find that if I don't have some written stuff in front of me, I'll be a pretty repetitious sight caller sometimes. So it helps me to have some get outs that remind me what I want to do instead of so I'm not doing pass through wheel and deal square through three or
Yeah.
something like. Um, so I guess that's mostly and depending on the theme too. If sometimes the club will have a theme.
Sure. Yeah. The
Um,
themes. Yeah.
I want to, if it's an Elvis night or a '50s night or something like that, I'll try to find the appropriate music.
Mm.
Uh, so I don't know if that's
Okay. Yeah, I do that. I've got probably 30 flashcards with mainstream and plus get outs. And each tip I'll take, I got my laptop. I don't use written material anymore, but I'll take 2 flashcards with 2 mainstream get outs, one from a line, one from a corner box. And I'll just put those on my keyboard and I'll just start calling and I'll be like, all right, and I'll get them in partner lines in sequence, and I'll glance down and I know where I'm going. So, and I try and do that because, like you said, you can't wheel and deal square through three. Ferris wheel square through three, pass through, whatever. Um, and I don't have the capacity to memorize all those get outs. So I'll throw 1 or 2 each tip in and using those flashcards, and then I'll just set it off to the side. And the dancers like that; they know the difference if they hear it enough. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. And of course,
we try to do a fair amount of dancing too. I know some callers that don't seem to go to dances.
mhm.
They just call, but we are very much like dancing, and I like to hear other callers, and so I do some research at dancers. Say, oh, that was cool. If I can remember it, I'll try to get it written down before I leave.
That's what I'll do. We've got a few clubs in this area, but if any callers from outside the area that, like we were talking earlier, Tony Oxendine's coming through doing a festival or whatever, I'll go just to dance. But I also take my phone and I set up on the stage and record it, and then I'll go home and I'll be like, I see what he did with that, Ferris wheel, whatever. And so it's research. But if it's good material, I'm taking it, and I'm going to figure out how to make it my own.
That's one of the older callers over on the west side of Washington, which is where the most of the population is in our state. You've got the Cascade Mountains, but the all the Seattle, Tacoma. That's probably 80% of the population is over there. So they're big. They tend to be bigger dancers. And did a school over there as a student. And the night that we did our little, you know, closing dance with us calling, I used a get out that I had heard Jerry use during the week. And one of the callers came up and actually complimented me and said he really liked that get out I used. I told him, I said, well, I stole it from Jerry Young. And he put his hand on my shoulder. He said, son, that's not stealing. That's research.
Yes, it is. Because, you know, I mean, you can be creative, but there's only it's just like playing a guitar. There's only so many chords. You know, with what we have now, there's so many get outs and get ins from every position. Sure, the odds on you coming up with something brand new, slim, you know,
Right.
or something that looks like somebody else's. So sure, if I hear something that's great, I'm absolutely writing it down, and I'm going to go home on Taminations or get my checkers and work it out, and I'm going to reverse engineer it. I'm going to say, this is my get out, and how do I get here? And so Gary, that's awesome, man. Yeah, but it is research.
I'm at home going, doggone it, what was that now, you know? And so then I'll have to reverse engineer it because I
Yep.
can't remember. And that's probably good for me too. So
I tell you, when I go to any convention or anything like that, and I'm listening to any caller, regardless who it is, when I hear something, if I'm dancing and I don't see the get out, that, you know, if I don't see it coming, I'll go up and I'm like, man, what was the setup? I don't know where we were because I'm not really paying attention to that when I'm dancing. And it'll say, hey, you were in, you know, out of sequence lines. And I'm like, all right. And I'll go home and figure it out from there.
I can once in a while as I'm dancing, I'll think, okay, we're in, like you said, partner lines or out of sequence lines, or oh, here's the zero boss, here's my corner. But most of the time, and I kind of think that as a caller, if most of the time I don't know where I'm at,
Mhm.
you know, most of the time the dancers don't either.
Right.
So it's a lot of times we feel like we're being repetitious, and then we find out, well, they didn't really feel
Mhm.
that way. So it's comforting.
No, it is. It is. That's another thing I'll do. Like I don't use written material anymore, but when I go up there, I'll like on a card, I'll put diamonds, because if I start calling plus, I might go the whole dance and not call diamonds just because it's just not, you know, I'm doing everything else. So I'll hey, this tip diamonds, this tip relay the DC, you know, put stuff like that in there, because load the boat's coming every single time, you know, and I'm like, hey, let's cut some of that out and do something different. So yeah, that's a lot of good tips right there, Gary. That's awesome. On the Caller Lab thing now, do you go to the Caller Lab conventions? You said you got your 25 year.
Yeah, I do occasionally. We were scheduled to go to the one in Grapevine. I had to cancel. We are registered. My wife and I are, Tammy and I are going to the 50th anniversary.
In Greenville. Outstanding, man. Maybe we'll get to meet there.
I've still got to find airplane tickets. I've got the rest of it figured out. But,
Yeah, that would be a ridiculous drive. You couldn't drive that for sure. That'd be a 3-night drive.
I'm retired. I got a fifth wheel. You could do it, but it would be a long trip.
Yeah. Yeah, it's about 3 hours, 2.5, 3 hours from me in Atlanta. So we're looking forward to that, and it's the 50th, so that's great. And what about the Nationals? Do you typically go to the Nationals, depending where they are?
Haven't been. I'd like to do it more, and I'm hoping maybe now we're retired we can.
Okay.
USA West Festival is actually coming here to Spokane.
Wow. Okay.
So we'll be busy with that one. I don't know if I'd love to get down to, isn't it New Orleans next year for Nationals?
Freeport.
Yeah,
Freeport, Louisiana is Nationals.
I'd love to do that, but I'm not sure with working, because we'll be involved in helping get things going for the USA West. But we'll see if we can.
I would at some point I'd like to come at least dance at USA West, because I see it on Facebook and everything. That's a huge setup.
Also, you can get pretty busy as a caller in the USA West too. Depends on how
Okay.
many show up.
Okay.
I've been to Square Dance. I've been to USA West when I only got to call 2 or 3 tips. But that one I told you about in Pendleton, I was pretty raw, and I think I called 15 hits.
Wow. Nice.
That was the one that kind of taught me this could be work. You're running from place to place.
Absolutely.
Other people have known about it for years, but there's something down in St. George, Utah called the Huntsman World Senior Games.
Okay.
It's like Olympics, and square dancing is one of the events. And we went down to that last year, and that is just, Tony was one of the callers. We had 4 callers. There was Tony, Mike Seastrom, Buddy Weaver, and Jerry Junk were the 4 guys on one stage, and they were pushing you because it was for competition.
Mhm.
They actually did the competition. They told us it's not a matter of if we break you down. We are going to break you down. And it's, how do you respond and how long does it take you to get back? But even the non-competition, as a dancer, you were being pushed the whole time. And you didn't have anybody mollycoddling you, and it was just so much fun and challenging to do. They had the main hall was almost all plus, and then they also had an advanced hall going. So just a lot of fun.
That's an incredible foursome right there. Mike Seastrom, just awesome dude. I haven't gotten to spend a lot of time with Jerry Junk. At some point, I'd like to talk to him and have some time just to talk.
Around. He's got you talk about stories. You get him talking, I'll tell you what, he's got the stories.
All right.
He's got stories about Marshall Flippo that will just have you rolling. And he's done things. He has stories about Ken Bauer and Gary Shoemake and all these road trips that they've done, and you can sit with a glass of wine and spend 2-3 hours with Jerry and just do it every night for a week.
Outstanding. That's awesome. At some point, I'll get to sit down with him. I see him at nationals on occasion, and we've said hello, but that's about it. So hopefully I'll get to sit down with him at some point. Well, Gary, we've been going about 45 minutes, man. I really appreciate you doing this for me and getting to meet you finally. Hopefully it does work out that you get to come to Greenville, South Carolina for the 50th. It's going to be a massive thing for Caller Lab. And it'd be great to actually, some of the people I get to interview, I told you, the first half of everybody I've talked to, I kind of know, I see on occasion. Others, like I say, I found you on cedar.net. So I don't get out Spokane very much. At some point, I'd like to get out to USA West. Maybe we can meet. But man, if you could come to Greenville, South Carolina, that'd be fantastic. Just so I can meet you and we can hang out a little bit, talk, have a meal together. That'd be a lot of fun.
Well, thanks for the
Absolutely, Gary. I appreciate it, brother. This is going to be coming out this Friday. So anywhere you can get it out, and I hope to see you, I don't know, 6 months, whatever it is, till we get to Caller Lab. Or if you can make it to nationals, that'd be great too, down in Shreveport.
Before I forget, thank you for your work as a police officer too.
Absolutely. Gary, it's a pleasure. Good talking to you, buddy, and hope to see you soon.
Thanks, Charlie. Take
Yeah,
care.
man. Have a good night.
Whoa, for girls promenade, go rolling round that ring, get on back and swing and promenade. My Lord, he is real, I can feel him in my soul. Swinger now. My Lord, he is real, I can feel him in my soul.